Where did this George Wajackoyah guy come from? What? The guy has just come and turned Kenyan politics upside down. People are not talking about anything else. Many youngsters who are talking hustler, wheelbarrows, mama mboga, hustlers being in the next government, are now missing. They have vanished. It is all Wajackoyah and his very controversial proposals. He is being hosted on numerous talk shows, on mainstream media and beyond. And Kenyans are suddenly very interested. I mean, my email has been flooded with requests to do a video on this presidential candidate. Watu wamekuwa kinisumbua sana. Well, finally here is the video. I've finished my research. I've put all my ducks in a row. Ndio hii hapa. And I know you must be very anxious. And so I'll not keep you anymore. Twende kazi. And don't forget to enjoy. I think it is true to say that in the entire history of Kenyan politics, we have had no other sensation which comes even close to the current sensational entrance into the presidential race of a man called George Wajackoyah. For keen political observers, many can already read between the lines and see where this candidacy is going. Because we know that Bwana Wajackoyah, or candidate Wajackoyah, really has no chance, has no realistic chance of winning the presidency of the Republic of Kenya. Still, he will make a major impact. Indeed, he has already made a very major impact on the presidential race. Let me put it in another way. Had Wajackoyah not been in the race, the results of the presidential elections in August this year would have been very, very different. And I'm going to explain that in great detail as we proceed. But let us start at the beginning, because it is important to understand this man, and then we may be able to understand a lot of other things, including the burning question: why is he running? Has he been sent by somebody to run? Who benefits from Wajackoyah running? Those burning questions are on the minds and lips of many Kenyans. Now, maybe at this juncture, it may be important for those of us who are new to politics to understand that it is normal anywhere in the world for a candidate to sponsor another candidate for the same race and fully pay for their campaign. And the whole objective is very simple: to reduce the votes of the opponent. Their votes you will never get. And so why not do the next best thing? Make sure even your opponent does not get them. That's very normal. Now, despite being born in Jinja, Uganda, Wajackoyah is a Kenyan. His mother is a Kenyan. His father is a Kenyan. He hails from Kakamega County and therefore is a member of the Mulembe Nation. And when Bwana Wajackoyah was very young, his parents divorced. And that had a major impact on his life because his mother didn't leave the marriage with him. In Luya custom, if you divorce, you leave the children with their father. But that's a topic for another day, a very hot one. And then of course his father remarried. And therefore Wajackoyah was brought up by his grandparents. Now for those of us who also study the psychology of a man, that is some very important piece of information. But one thing comes out very clearly from this man's life. He is very determined, very ambitious. Because when he was being brought up by his grandparents, he ran away. Found means to get to Nairobi without fare. So that means aliomba lift, or most probably he hid in some vehicle. Found a way to get into Nairobi, where he ended up on the streets. Parking boy, we call them in Kenya. But as luck would have it, some well-wishers ensured that Wajackoyah went to school and finished. He finished his A-levels in 1980. There's some people in this world who are very lucky. They're the kind of people just see them and they want to help them. Very lucky individuals. And Wajackoyah was like this. And so he ended up at the Kenya Police Training College at Kiganjo. And upon graduation, started working for the special branch. That's the NIS of those days, the country's intelligence service. And this is where the man's life got even more interesting. Now, Wajackoyah's life changed forever in a very dramatic way after the events in Kenya which shook the nation on February 1990. Let me just give you a quick background of what happened so that we all understand why this man had to flee the country, fearing for his life. Very quickly, on the night of 13th February 1990, the then Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. John Robert Ouko, disappeared from his home in Koru. Koru is close to Kisumu. Now the following day, the 13th of February, a herdsboy called Joseph Shikuku found the remains of Dr. Ouko, about 2.8 kilometers from his Koru farm. Now the super fascinating thing here is that local government officials were aware of this find. But a few hours later on radio, we were told, the shocked nation was told, that nobody knew where Dr. John Robert Ouko was. A full cabinet minister with security supplied by the state, internal security boys tracking his movement as routine, had vanished from the face of the earth. And then on 16th February, almost 3 days later, a convenient police search found the remains of Dr. Ouko. He had been shot and his body was badly burnt. Now, even from the little I've said so far, you already know this had government cover-up written all over it. But that was not the end of the drama in this case. I believe there's been no other case in the country of Kenya as fascinating, with so many dramatic turns, as that of the late Dr. Ouko. Now, to cut a very long story short, it has been established through even official reports that actually the Foreign Affairs Minister died, wait for this one, on the grounds of State House Nakuru. That is where he was fatally shot. Indeed, this information did not surprise some Kenyans, because the kind of comedy of errors that went on, or the late minister committed suicide, and yet he had been shot, he had a broken leg, he had been burnt. So people asked, did he burn himself after committing suicide? Folks, it was a total mess. And to date, officially, the murder of Dr. Uko still remains unsolved. Officially. Although unofficially, we know a lot of what happened. Anyway, let's stick to Wajackoyah today. Now, George Wajackoyah, a special branch officer at the time, was tasked with gathering intelligence on this Dr. Robert Uko murder manenos. And such a junior officer being assigned such a high-profile case, or being involved with such a high-profile case, makes perfect sense in a cover-up. Because what you do, you choose an inexperienced young officer, and you hope that he'll not find much, and you hope that he'll add to the confusion, kumaliza hiyo maneno. But they picked the wrong man, because Wajackoyah is a very intelligent man. And the long and short of it is that he came up with too much sensitive information. He ended up coming up with too much glaring evidence, too much sensitive information. And therefore, suddenly he found that he had been arrested by his colleagues, and he was interrogated and tortured, because I believe somebody couldn't believe that such a young, naive officer would be so intelligent, so thorough, when given a task they had very little experience in. Now we are moving very quickly. So what ended up happening? When George Wajackoyah was released briefly, he did not feel safe anymore, and he fled the country to the UK. And it seems that when he arrived in the UK, instead of feeling pity for himself, he only saw the opportunity of improving his life. And he started accumulating degrees and courses, most of them in the legal profession. And then later he migrated to the US. And then he returned to Kenya in the year 2010. He fled from Kenya in 1990, and he returned in 2010. By this time he was already married to a wife who is an American, a black American, and had children. And in 2012, he announced that he was going to vie for the presidency of the country. But then later on withdrew from that race. Fast forward to 2022. Again, he announced he would vie for the presidency, I believe last year. And now, he has taken the local political scene by storm. Now, for us to get to the bottom of this quickly, we need to ask the right questions. George Wajackoyah's candidature for the presidency affects who amongst the two horses? Because we've been told this is a two-horse race. Who does it affect most? Raila or Ruto? Now if we were to step back and look at the situation carefully, there is something very obvious that emerges. Wajackoyah's campaign has excited young people in Kenya, the youth. And William Samoei Ruto's campaign, Wheelbarrow and Hustler, had previously really excited our youth. And so Wajackoyah's entry into the field means that the advantage Ruto had of exciting youngsters with his wheelbarrow and hustler narrative has vanished overnight. Have you noticed that? Now, anybody who is a marketing professional will immediately tell you that George Wajackoyah's presidential campaign is a very clever, well-staged attempt to capture the young people of Kenya, and only the young people of Kenya. It is very narrowly targeted at the young people of Kenya. Now bear in mind, many young people in Kenya are not registered voters, especially the ones who make the most noise, the ones who are most visible on social media and in other forums. They don't have voters cards. But this group is very important because they influence us. They influence other young people who actually have voters cards. And these young people were firmly going to vote for the deputy president. If I can remind you, Ruto's handlers have always been reminding Kenyans of Raila Odinga's age. Yeah? And one way of getting through to young people very quickly is to write off a candidate based on the age of that candidate. Yeah? Most young people will not even think twice. You know, some people have said that in a straight race between George Wajackoyah and William Samoei Ruto, Wajackoyah would win. Now this may sound far-fetched. However, consider the following. If a huge percentage of following of the deputy president is the young people of Kenya, our youth, then there must be some truth in that statement. Because if you live in Kenya, or if you're following Kenyan politics, there is nothing else we hear these days. You turn left, Wajackoyah. You turn right, Wajackoyah. Everywhere. People are not talking about anybody else. You know, because life is so hard in Kenya today, most of our youth are rebels without a cause. But the entry of Wajackoyah has given all these young people a cause they can be very excited about. And they don't even need to be smokers of bangi to support Wajackoyah. Indeed, one can even see Wajackoyah stealing the show during the presidential debate. If indeed it is true Wajackoyah has been sponsored by the Azimio deep state, then this is a very smart move. In fact, ingenious. Let me just give you one more example. We have been told by the handlers of the deputy president that he is being advised to withdraw from the presidential debates. Now, assume a field without Wajackoyah, and the presidential debates go on without Deputy President William Samoei Ruto. That kind of presidential debate would be dead on arrival. It would not fly. It would be boring. However, now that Wajackoyah is in the race, a presidential debate where William Samoei Ruto is missing will still be fireworks. And therefore, in my opinion, if Ruto handlers were thinking of withdrawing from the debates in order to gain an edge, in order to mess up the momentum of Azimio, then now they will need to go back to the drawing board, because that is no longer viable. Thanks to the presidential candidate, George Luchiri Wajackoyah. What? Wapi popcorn? We're going to need a lot of popcorn going forward. Yeah? Wajackoyah has just changed the game. And in my opinion, Wajackoyah has just sealed the fate of the deputy president. He has handed over a sure victory to Team Azimio. In other words, he has taken away the very last card the deputy president would have played, in order at least to disrupt the momentum of Azimio. Wajackoyah has just taken it away, leaving the DP Ruto camp with nothing. What? Now, when the 2007-2008 clashes happened, Wajackoyah was out of the country. He had not yet returned. But his colleagues at the special branch, were caught up in some very super fascinating things. Well documented in my book, Let the Blood Flow. And therefore, for anybody who wants to understand a little more about the world Wajackoyah came from, in Kenya's special branch, then reading Let the Blood Flow will give you a very unique insight. You can see details on your screens right now on how to grab a copy, in case you've not yet grabbed one already. I highly recommend that you take full advantage of this offer. Now, so far, from what we have seen, George Wajackoyah is the only presidential candidate, apart from Raila Odinga, who is exciting crowds in a major way wherever he goes. And he doesn't need to buy them. He doesn't need to pay people attendance fees. No. In a recent appearance in Embu, the town went wild. Young people are the majority, especially on the streets. Young people are the majority in the country called Kenya. And they gave this presidential candidate such a warm welcome that you'd have been forgiven for thinking he's definitely winning the presidency. And therefore, going forward, I will keep you updated. But I believe we should hang on to the conclusion that already this is not a presidential candidate who will have zero impact. No. Is going to have a very major impact in the forthcoming presidential elections. His entry, despite his very controversial views, his very controversial proposals, including the one about legalizing the herb, bangi, despite all that, Wajackoyah is a breath of fresh air into Kenyan politics. Because suddenly, prospective voters are not talking tribe. Many Kenyans are not even asking what tribe is. Isn't that a breath of fresh air? Isn't that preparing the ground for the future Kenya we want to see? Until next time, this is Kshs. Kumekucha.